All right, welcome to the Golden Note podcast, everyone. My name is Jesse,
And my name's Karen Deep.
and today we are talking about Janis Joplin and her popular, I guess, seminal 1971 album. Karen, what is the name of this album?
Pearl.
Pearl. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Let's start with the album cover.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, this is a album that you must listen to before you die, off the 1001 albums to listen to before you die.
And if you don't listen to it before you die, you're just not going to die.
Yeah, you'll be stuck in the
In the abyss.
stuck in the abyss. Yeah.
And speaking of abyss, this album cover really strikes that chord. We got Janis Joplin sitting on this fancy demonic chair, if we're still on that theme, with harsh lighting on a really crinkly backdrop. And she got these big red pants going on. Her hair is looking like a peacock. And she's thinking she's a pearl.
Yeah. Yeah, true, actually. Look at that. She's like a pearl in a clamshell.
Yeah.
The crinkly background is really something to behold, actually. I didn't notice that until you just said that. Yeah, they were like, this is cool. This is fine. It's authentic.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, it's fun. Whatever she's got going on with her hair, it's pretty cool. Interesting.
What kind of story does this tell you?
She just doesn't care. She's like having the time of her life. It's like, I'll put whatever I want to on my hair, and I'll make whatever I want to for my album cover. Here, take a picture of me sitting in this chair with this cool pink stuff in my hair.
She's got a drink in her hand too. So I imagine this is like,
oh, does she have a drink?
At least her third drink. She looks way too happy.
Oh wow, I never noticed that either. Wow. Yeah, she's just chilling. Yeah. No, I think it's fine. I don't know. It's a whatever album. It doesn't necessarily make me want to buy it immediately, but it doesn't make me not want to buy it. It's just kind of, she's just hanging out, having a good time.
Feels all right.
Yeah.
Meh.
And
I like the pants or the dress or skirt, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the red is striking.
Yeah.
The name of the album is whatever too, Pearl. I don't know what significance it really has with the songs, but it's interesting because this is like a very bluesy rock album, and nothing about this album cover really screams that to me. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
It almost feels like this is gonna be like a 1920s jazzy vibe to the music.
Yeah, I'm getting some jazz vibes. I'm getting some like maybe Motown vibes, but nowhere near like the bluesy, soulful stuff that she's been trying to do.
Yeah. What is your background with Janis Joplin?
I know she's a very prominent figure. I'm not exactly sure why. I know she's got a very unique voice.
Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, maybe.
And we'll talk about that voice in a bit. So not too much. I just know I've heard the name. I know she's got a thing going on. Part of a lot of movements, perhaps. I don't know which ones. But that's my background on Janis Joplin.
Yeah, I mean, let's do a deep dive a little bit. So I'm familiar with Janis from my classic rock kind of upbringing in music.
Nice.
She's always like one of the big names dropped in like the late 60s and early 70s artists. Her voice obviously is like the biggest thing with her. And she's ever since I've ever like learned about her, it was always like people were either like, oh yeah, I really like Janis Joplin, or like, I can't stand Janis Joplin and her like screechy voice. And I've always been in the camp of liking it. Like I think it's she's got a unique distinctive voice, and is pretty cool like vocally. In terms of her songs though, like I only ever really knew one or two songs from her.
Yeah.
It was always more like Janis Joplin was bigger than her music.
I agree. I agree.
That was always the vibe. Because do you know anything about like who she was as a person?
Not exactly.
No, she was very much like a partier, as you can tell by the drink in her hand. She did have like substance abuse issues, and that's how she ended up dying. I think the year this came out in 1971, like maybe a year after.
Damn.
Yeah, obviously young. I think she's in the 27 Club, so she died when she was 27.
No way.
Yeah. I'm like 95% sure she's in the 27 Club. She looks a bit older than 27 there, but everyone back in the old days looked older.
Yeah, that's true.
You know. So yeah, like so that kind of added to her mythical status as like a rock legend, was her just dying so young from like substance abuse, which
Mhm.
seemed especially in the early 70s that was like just like happening nonstop, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Jim Morrison also died in 1971, the
Wow.
lead singer of the Doors. So it was like a lot of art. Jimi Hendrix died in 1971. Like all these artists who were like in their late 20s, just like tragically being taken by drug abuse. So that kind of added to her mystique within the genre of like, oh my gosh, she was like such a personality and we lost her too soon. And so
Mhm,
we should
mhm.
like go back and like appreciate her music and stuff. So
Fair.
that's like the background that I have on Janice, but that's about it. And okay, yeah, let's talk about the album.
Yeah. Let's go into it. Let's start with the first song, Move Over.
Move over. What
What
did you think about this?
I was just about to say the same. Here's what I've prepared for this song. She sings halfway between an old babushka with smoker lungs and a sultry young woman. And it makes you feel a little
Old
uncomfortable.
babushka.
Yeah,
Isn't that Polish?
a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I get the vibe, even from the album cover, like all those jewels, pearls, and rings is like what the babushka would have worn just before she like doubled down on the home garden type of thing. You know,
Yeah.
she's had her fun, she explored, she moved to a new city, all the pearls and jewels, but the stories, and it's like just before she's gonna settle down. So that babushka vibe is there. It's a transitionary phase, and so it made me feel a little uncomfortable, and it kind of feels like a predatory grandmother. Yeah, that's where I'm
Just from
coming
the
from.
song? Oh my
Just from this
gosh.
song and her voice in particular.
Wow. I mean, I I was gonna say not like I was nodding like, yeah, I agree with some of that. It's very much like she's a hippie. And like in general, she's like a big hip she was a big hippie. And so this just screams like this is what older boomer women who are hippies that I've like experienced in my like I know like this is what they were in the 70s
Yeah,
and it's like this is like you know what I mean, like rewind, this is what they were like and now like I could totally see the progression now of like like it was trendy in 1971 and
spot on.
you know what I mean? That was like the vibe I got. Okay, wow. Very descriptive
Thank you.
in terms of her voice, the babushk sultry voice. I said right off the bat, like you get the blues immediately
Mm.
from the track. Like it's like, okay, this is a blues album, or at least a song. Her voice is right away charismatic, and you can tell it's Janis Joplin. Like if you're at all familiar with her, I did like the organ in the chorus and in the breakdown. It's like very classic
Mhm.
1970s. Like they were just obsessed with organs, like in rock music. And there's a cool solo. Yeah, that's what I got for
Yeah,
this song.
yeah.
Like it's
I
pretty good.
I did like the guitar player. I think the opening of the song really helped open up the album.
Yeah.
It was very intentional for the introduction of the instruments and like the musicianship that's going to be happening in the record. And I felt the guitar player really took up like a role, a character throughout this entire album. And he set it, whoever it was, set it up very clearly of like how they're going to present themselves as a guitar player. The voice, the tone of the playing. Was really clear right off the top, very bluesy. So I really like that too.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guitar playing. I felt like the whole band was really,
Mhm.
really solid this whole album. I guess we can talk about the next one, Cry Baby.
Yeah.
Unless you had anything else you wanted to add about the starting track.
No, that's all.
No, that's everything.
Yep.
Electric start on this one. Some good use of dynamics, right? Like bringing the song to like a lower place where it's like nice and soft and quiet, and then like making it really loud. Once again, the charisma is just dripping off of Janis Joplin, and it really forces you to pay attention. You know, that's what I really like about her voice. Is like this isn't music that you can just like throw on in the background. You know what I mean? It like forces you to listen. Like at least her voice, right? Which can be a great thing and can also be a not so great thing.
Yeah, I felt like in this one, she got a lot more soulful and maybe less bluesy. And from that, I kind of got a little confused
Mm.
because if I was just listening to this record without having the image of Janis Joplin in my brain, I'd be wondering, is this a white woman or is this a black woman? And it's like right on the edge of,
Mm.
I'm not quite sure where it is. It's kind of in that gray zone.
Okay.
And because of that, it got me confused a little bit about the delivery of that soulful vocal, where at times it didn't feel authentic or like really right in the feels. It felt more of a presentation at times.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was like my perception being mixed up or just there was something about her voice that kept on distracting me from her intention behind what
Okay.
she was singing. So it made me feel a little disconnected.
You thought she was like putting on like a fake persona almost, or like it
Kinda.
was like inauthentic.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
It's a mix with the band, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But the way she was singing in this song reminds me of a subway performer in Toronto,
No.
Christy King. Name dropping her.
Whoa.
We've met a couple of
That's so
times.
funny.
This
Shout
was
out.
yeah, fantastic performer, very loud voice, no microphone amplification needed. Because she sings so loud that she gets that raspiness to it, and I feel like Janis would have been a very similar energy and character. And the energy is I want to present, I want to share these gut wrenching emotional moments, but it always feels a little bit more pushed, like just a little bit of anger and edge to that like really needs to get out. And that sort of intentional pushing of the vocal and the intention behind the delivery, I feel like is where that inauthenticity kind of hits me a little bit. So it's very interesting to hear the mix of bluesiness and the soulfulness, and I felt like I couldn't quite put my finger on it of what didn't feel settled, but I think that touches on some of that.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I do understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
I would disagree though. Like I didn't really feel like that when I listened to this song. Maybe it's also because I also recognize this song when I listened. I was like, oh, like I've heard this before. So maybe that familiarity with it kind of didn't really get me that perspective that you're getting. But I could see now, kind of thinking back to it, why you would think that. So I'm curious how Janis's voice kind of wears on you throughout the album as we keep going.
Yes.
So next one, if you're down to keep going here, A
Yeah.
Woman Left Lonely. I wrote here cool vibrato on her voice at the beginning. There's a song called A Whiter Shade of Pale.
Oh.
I don't know if you've heard it before. Maybe we'll listen to it after. We'll see. But it's like it's a really great like classic rock song. It's like kind of like a one-hit wonder song, but it's just like such a great song that it's like stayed in the I don't know what you would call it, just like in the museum of classic rock.
Right.
Right. It's so it reminds me of that song a lot. The vocals here are definitely emotional and raw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and especially for me on this song, I was like, I understand why people don't like her voice sometimes. Like it's not like I can't understand why people don't like it. Like there's moments like this where I'm just like, even I'm like kind of gritting my teeth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I did get some like feminist vibes to the lyrics in this song.
Yes.
Which I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. So yeah, like generally I thought this was a good song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I kind of tuned out about the instrumentation at this point. I felt like I kind of got the vibe what the band was doing.
It's just like same old.
Kind of. It felt like the band was the studio band, the rhythm section that was just accompanying Janis.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I didn't draw too much attention to the instrumentation or the performance, but
same.
on the song content, it was very interesting because I felt like there was the essence of it was sound, but the delivery was just kind of confusing. And I think that was from her vocal performance, where like it was trying to be intimate and soothing almost, but it wasn't as soothing as I wanted it to be. And I think that came with the edginess of the feminist vibe, the kind of that aggression and that sort of women power type of stance came from that. So if there's always this drive to push again that I touched on earlier, that made me feel a little disconnected with the vocal performance.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. In general, it was an interesting song, I would say. Yeah. For Half Moon, the next track, I found this pretty groovy. So I was like a good groove. The vocals start off really soft with some acapella, which was cool. And the keyboard was like a highlight for me. But otherwise, I didn't have much to say about this track, and that'll kind of be like a common theme with me as we continue on.
Yeah, this one did not make a huge impact on me. I did like the keyboard as well. It was a nice kind of mix up, but it was very subtle compared to everything else on the record.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I feel like I wanted more guitar presence, but I didn't quite get that in this tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the next one, I just wrote like Oh, the next one's instrumental actually. Buried Alive in Blues.
Right. This one kind of washed over me when I was listening
Yeah.
to it. I was like, oh, just
It's just a minute and a half
bands.
track
Yeah.
blues. The band was like, "Hey Janice, can we have this? Can we do this thing we've been jamming?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Right. So I literally wrote my notes like cool, but like whatever. Like it doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, they're really wearing blues on their sleeves, so like they know this is a blues album, right? Blues rock. The next one is got a cool time signature, and honestly, for this one, I felt a lot of Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, lead singer of Led Zeppelin. I was like, this is. I don't know if it's intentional. Like Janis was listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin, or vice versa. If Led Zeppelin was listening to a lot of Janis Joplin, but yeah, it just sounded. I was like, they're kind of like kindred spirits. They're like she's evoking some Robert Plant vocal vibes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like every song definitely had a unique energy and approach to it. And so musically, maybe more on the instrumental side, every song had its own kind of its own color. And I really appreciated that listening through the album. But it all felt quite familiar. It felt like it's been done before.
Yeah.
The vibes, the grooves, the way blues was presented or the way soul was presented. So when this song came around, it felt I did get those same kind of vibes, the Led Zeppelin vibes, but it felt watered down or just like touched on. It didn't feel as impactful or as innovative as what I would how Led Zeppelin actually felt. So I felt like it wasn't none of the energy changes, the vibes, the style changes hit me as hard as I wish it did, because it's very clearly and intentional for every song. There was a kind of a character that they're trying to bring into the songwriting.
Right.
So this one was a miss for me.
Yeah. Yeah. In general, for this album, I think it really just came down to like the spotlight is her vocals.
Right.
It's her voice, right? Like lyrics, meh. Like songwriting, nah. The band, good studio band, nothing to write home about. It's just her voice is like really what makes this album stand out, if you would call this album stand out. So we'll have to see what our opinions are at the end. Stay tuned. The last couple songs here, we'll just go through them quickly. Me and Bobby McGee. This is a famous track. This is one that I've always kind of like read about or heard about. There's like a key change a third of the way through, I think, that
Yes, I think it goes up a tone.
yeah. And I did like how they gave the impression of speeding up at the end, but they don't change the BPM. It's just the drummer just like speeds up his he goes from like what 8th notes to 16th notes.
Yes.
And it just like has a cool drive at the end, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I like that change up, but it felt kind of weak. I wish that if they did make that big dramatic key change or the rhythmic change, I wanted to be more extreme, but it felt like just a little bump.
Do something more with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I would say that's pretty fair. The next track is Mercedes Benz. This is just like all personality, right? Like this is just Janis being like, this is who I am. Like it's just like her, I don't know, her, it just seemed like this is like the standout track in terms of if you want to get a vibe for like who Janis was as a person, you just listen to this song, right? Like very funny, slightly dated. Like she mentions like I want a color TV as well as a Mercedes Benz, and it's like those two aren't the same anymore. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just wrote like all personality on this track, which I thought was really cool.
This one was a hard listen for me because I think the message really rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh yeah,
like kind of like preaching to God in a way, like praying for these things. Like I think she mentioned to prove that you love me, you should get me these things. And I think it was like, whoa, you know, like check yourself there, you know? Yeah. So like it's hard for me to kind of get past the story or the message because I just didn't sit well with me or I didn't like agree with it.
Yeah.
And all the examples just felt, I guess, like kind of cheap. Like it felt like kind of cheap.
I wouldn't like. I feel like it's almost sarcastic, but I don't know. Like if maybe you could take this as like she doesn't believe this, she thinks it's ridiculous, and that's why she's presenting it in this way, and she's singing it, and it's like very silly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like maybe it's like commentary.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree. Like if it is genuine, like he's like, yeah, give me a Mercedes Benz. Like yeah, it's kind of. I don't think she like took a vow against took a vow of poverty or anything when she was coming up as a rock star. So
Yes.
uh,
No.
maybe she was truthful and like, yeah, give me a fancy car. But either way, I thought it was fun, but I can see the moral side of it being
Yeah.
not great. The last track, Trust Me. Uh, I don't know. I wrote that like it sounded like her voice was really going. You know, like felt like this was all done in like 1 or 2 sessions, like back to back,
Mhm.
and it was just like this was the last one, and you could tell the sound engineer was like, all right, Janice, this is probably your last take here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I guess like closing with the album overall, it just felt like the soulful mix was very confusing to me,
mm,
and it felt unintentional or inauthentic. The band was tight, but it also felt like a studio band. A little bit of like I feel like there's just some life missing to this whole record. And I imagine that may have contrasted to her live performances because I heard that those were fantastic. A lot
yeah.
of energy, a lot of connection with the crowd, but I felt like there was a big disconnect overall throughout this record.
Sorry, you feel like something's missing? Like, what do you
Mm,
mean? Like there's like a
like a musical connection, I think.
yeah.
The band felt like the band was doing their thing, and then Janice was doing her thing with the band. But it didn't feel
Oh,
like they came together
right.
and they were
They're like
really
just punching
informing.
in almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
I didn't feel like they were connecting on that level where they were having a conversation. It's more like they're just
Mm,
supporting Janice, and I get
yeah.
that. And a lot of records are like that. But with the material and the changes of styles and grooves throughout this record, I just felt like there could have been more touchstones, either with the guitar player because I felt like he was more vocal in a lot of his bluesy licks, where they can kind of complemented each other's raspiness and grittiness. But I didn't quite get that overall through this record.
Hmm. Favorite song?
Hmm.
Least favorite song?
You
And
know,
or
it's hard to put a finger on it.
yeah.
I didn't. I was thinking about this quite a bit, and I was like, none of them really stand out to me. But I
Wow.
guess if I were to choose, "Crybaby" would be my favorite song.
Same.
Nice,
Same. But
nice.
you had a lot to say about that one. You were very critical. You're like, she's
Yes.
a faker on this, and it's like, oh, it's my favorite song now.
Maybe on pure emotional reaction,
Yeah.
it was the most potent.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's definitely the strongest song out of all of them,
Hmm.
for sure. Okay, so it's time now. It's
Ooh.
time to discuss what we're gonna give this album out of 5 stars. So I'm gonna give it a score out of 5. Karen Deep's gonna give it a score out of 5. We're gonna combine our score. If it is a 9 or higher, then we promise that we will do something to kind of commemorate the fact that this got a very high score. We'll maybe do a cover or something because we both play instruments and try to sing, both of us.
I try. He
No,
actually
I
sings.
also try to sing too. It's whether I get there is another question. But okay, I'll start. For me, I would say this album is a 2.5 out of 5. Maybe my lowest score.
Yeah, I think that's your lowest score on record so far.
No, you know what? Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah.
It's 2.5. I don't know if I can get to 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. It's a 2.5.
Dang.
I was
Okay.
gonna give it a 2, but you know what? The musicianship was all right. The band did a good job. So that 0.5 is for the band.
There you go. Nice. Okay, 5 out of 10 album. This was on the list of 1,001 albums you should listen to before you die. If you want to skip it, then maybe you should, because
should
we're
skip
only
this
giving it a
album.
5 out of 10. But I mean, hey, everyone has their own opinions. So if you are a Janis Joplin fan, if you really love your blues rock, then this is definitely maybe something you want to check out. If you don't really care about blues rock that much, or if Janis Joplin's voice is generally tough for you to listen to, then that's probably not going to do much for you, this album, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And I think that's it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe if you want to hear more, and leave a comment about what you think about this album and what you think about our review.
Yes. Thank you very much for watching and listening. See you on the next one.
Have a nice day.